Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be focusing on a new nib rather than particularly a pen. If you follow this channel, not too long ago I did a review of the Magna Carta 600, which has a gold flex nib. And today I'm looking at the Majohn steel flex nib, or what they're calling it, soft flex nib, that has just come out. Anyway, it came in a little parcel, and it comes in a Jovo housing, and I put it into a Majohn Piston 136, which is a fountain pen that I've reviewed in the past that looks a lot like a Mont Blanc 146, and it is a very nice pen, and I'm pleased to say that it works very, very well in that piston filler. One of the things that makes it different from some of the other flex nibs, like the Fountain Pen Revolution Ultra Flex nib, which I think of as sort of its competitor now, is that it comes with a regular plastic feed. So, and that's interesting because there's a sort of idea that you need to have an ebonite feed or else you're going to get a lot of skipping. Pilot uses plastic feeds in their pens that flex. So ebonite is not a necessity, but a lot of people replace the plastic feeds in those pens to make them more reliable and get more ink to the nib. For those of you who aren't familiar, ebonite is kind of rubber, and it doesn't repel water the way that plastic does, so it gets a lot more ink to the flex nib. Flex nibs typically require more ink or else they railroad. And anyway, I have started using this pen, and let me show you. Okay, so here it is. And it has some flex. One thing that I notice about it immediately is how relatively smooth it is. It has feedback, but it's quite smooth for a fine nib, and it's very pleasant. It has a kind of bounce to it. And it does have some line variation, but it's railroading a little bit, but for the most part it doesn't. This is Strathmore drawing paper, so it's more absorbent, and I have Takisumi, which is Pilot ink. It's very wet ink. It's kind of lubricated, so it's very good for pens that have flex nibs in it. And in order for it to flex, I really have to push down on it. Now, just to give you an idea the difference, this is the Magna Carta 600. This is a gold nib. It's expensive. I mean, this is a pen that can cost as much as $400, certainly in the $300 range. And you can see how, thick this is, but also the main huge difference is that I hardly have to press in order to get it to flex. In fact, I would say that one of the criticisms of this pen is that it's too much of a wet noodle. It's a bit hard to control it. I think it's fabulous for drawing. A little less good for writing. So this is the Magna Carta, and you can see all I have to do is write, and there's quite a lot of line variation. But if I use the Majohn, in order for it, it's railroading a little bit, I can't get that much line variation, and this is Majohn, and I'm just, normal pressure, and it's, doesn't really show that much line. I really have to concentrate to get it to go, to show that kind of line variation. Now, I don't do calligraphy. I always say that I actually have terrible, not very good handwriting. But if I'm gonna so this is this pen versus the super Flexy pen, like the Magna Carta. And you can see how easily this flexes in comparison to the Majohn. Now, I suppose a fairer test is to look at the Fountain Pen Revolution Ultra Flex. How does it compare? This is the Fountain Pen Revolution nib, Ultra Flex, and you can see it has this cutouts, which is very different from the Majohn nib, which doesn't do that. It just seems like the Majohn nib flex has to do with its material rather than the way it's the nib itself is kind of cut it. And let's get it writing, and you can see right away it doesn't require much pressure. It's going from thin to thicker. Oh, there's a little railroading. It's basically, if you go slow, it won't railroad. This has an ebonite feed. Sure this is in focus. Yes, okay. And it is very easy to flex with it. Maybe not like the Magna Carta, but still very easy. This has great line variation without much pressure. Okay, this is the Ultra Flex. This is the Majohn. It's actually railroading now a little bit. Really putting a lot of pressure, and it's just not anywhere as much variation. And if I put, that's no pressure, a lot of pressure. If I just write, this is smooth, but not that much variation. This is the Majohn Flex Nib. See, so you can see it's not as much. There is some variation, but not anything like the variation that you get with the Ultra Flex. And just another comparison, maybe. So this is the Conklin Flex Nib, which is also made by Jovo. Okay. And it has almost no line variation. It's interesting because it also has, oh, there it goes. Okay, you can see that it also has cutouts. Let me have to go back to this, get this to focus. All right. This is less flex than the Majohn. So I would prefer, this is a Conklin. So over the Jovo Flex, the Majohn is better if you're trying to get some flexy experience. It also is smoother, it has a nice bounce to it, but it is not really a flex nib in the way the Fountain Pen Revolutionary Flex is. And so this really is the best value, it seems to me, still in ultra flex in terms of a steel nib. If you want to get a lot of flex just all over the place, then you should go with the Magna Carta, but that's a much more expensive pen. This is 300 plus, and it flexes really great, but it's very, very wet. I don't find it the best pen, for writing with. Another possibility, actually, that I think is quite good and I've reviewed is the Fountain Pen Revolution Gold Ultra Flex Nib, which I think has more control than the Magna Carta nib. They're similar, but it's less wet. I think it's a better choice, but this is very different experience than the one if you're hoping that you get the Majohn Flex, that you're going to get a really fantastic flex experience for an inexpensive nib. What is surprising about this pen, I think, is that for a fine nib, is that it writes so smoothly. But to get a lot of line variation, you really have to press down very, very hard. Okay, so now I'm pressing down quite hard, and I'm getting a bit of line variation. It's very wet, and it doesn't skip. So that's the great news about this nib, and it's very smooth. And there is some line variation if you press down very, very hard. But there's no way that I would call this a flex nib in the sense that a Waterman 52 is a flex nib, or the Magna Carta 600 is a flex nib, or the Fountain Pen Revolution Ultra Flex is a flex nib. Nevertheless, it's very pleasant. It also is interesting that for an Asian pen, I would never say this was an extra fine either. In that sense, it's like the Magna Carta 600, which also really is not an extra fine. It's more like goes from a fine to a broad or double broad. There definitely is line variation, and it's a really nice pen nib for drawing, because if you notice, it doesn't skip. And I'm drawing quite fast. This is normally when I do these drawings, I just speed it up. But I just wanted to give you a sense of how it works. So this is in real time. So here's a real example. Here I'm really trying to flex it. Here not. But this is really amazingly wet. This is not an ebonite feed, the way that you have for the fountain pen Ultra Flex or the Magna Carta 600. And I've read online that if you can get an ebonite feed for this, it performs better, but then you'd have to take it out of its JoWo holder, which is possible. I would recommend actually that they sell a version of this with an ebonite feed. So this is a drawing of tree peonies, which are really spectacular. They look at it like they're made of crepe paper. And they're incredible red color. Again, I'm using a Majohn Piston 136, which is very similar to a Mont Blanc 146. I mean, it looks very similar. And with this nib, it really is an incredible pen that you can probably get for, I don't know, maybe at the most $40 with this nib, maybe? I don't know. It's a lot better than spending, $900 or something, which is what a Mont Blanc pen would cost you new. It's very impressive, actually. So this is the Majohn Flex or Soft Flex Nib in a P136. I have the Takisumi ink, which is a very wet ink. It's one of my favorite inks. It's really good for flex pens. Strongly recommended.